is sponsored by Healthcare Options of the Triangle.
Type 2 diabetes, hypertension, and high cholesterol. 3 different diseases, but our guest today says the people who suffer from these diseases may have one very important thing in common. They may have the same metabolic mindset. Jessica Brueggeman is the Director of Behavioral Sciences at MicroMass, and she'll be able to tell us exactly what that is. So what do you mean exactly when you say metabolic mindset?
Well, at MicroMass, the team of behaviorists there, we conducted a study with 1,500 patients that had one or more of the following conditions: high blood pressure, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, and obesity. And what we found is that regardless of the clinical differences in these conditions, there is a lot of similarities in terms of their motivations for adopting healthier behaviors and also the things that stand in their way. So it's that common ground that we call the metabolic mindset.
Now, you kind of broke them down into 4 different groups of people who think the same way, and the way that their thoughts are is really affecting whether or not they're able to be effective in their treatment of their diseases. The first one is people who are kind of on cruise control.
Absolutely. So this group, I mean, cruise control describes them very well. They basically are doing what they're supposed to do in terms of what their doctor has told them. They are engaging in healthy behaviors. You know, they're watching what they're eating, they're exercising. The problem with this group is that they're not really concerned about their metabolic condition. So they're not really concerned about the consequences. Therefore, they're really at a high risk of relapsing. So they need a lot of repeated reinforcement from their healthcare providers so that they don't, you know, fall off course.
To kind of make them realize, look, this really is important. It really can affect your health long term.
Absolutely.
You're in danger. Okay.
Yes.
The second group is taking charge. That's, we should say the first group, cruise control, is about 19%.
Yes.
30% taking charge. What's that?
Taking charge, this group is really kind of the model person. In terms
I read their description and it was like, this is the model patient, right?
They're probably not 100% perfect, but really, you know, what this group they have going for them is not only are they doing what they're supposed to do in terms of eating healthy and exercising and things like that, but they're also very, you know, concerned and very aware about the consequences of their condition.
So what do you say to treat them? I mean, do they follow? That sounds like they're, you know, patient robots. Like you tell them exactly what is it pretty much they're going to follow what you say to do? Pretty
much. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think reinforcement is good for anyone, and I think continued reinforcement for this group is helpful. But really, what is helpful to do with this group is really to tap into them to be an advocate, to share their experiences with other patients, because they can have a lot of influence, a lot of positive influence on other patients.
Yeah. Now, you know, one of my questions when I was reading about this is I was surprised to think that doctors and nurses, frankly, would need to be told this, because I would think this would be part of people's treatment anyway, but that's not necessarily the case.
No, and, you know, honestly, nurses and physicians, you know, generally are not necessarily trained specifically in behavioral strategies and behavioral techniques with patients, and they're very limited time that they have with patients. So I think what our study does is it provides some really new ways that physicians and nurses, managed care organizations can engage with patients in a way that's more efficient and give them more effective strategies to help them be healthier.
Kind of helps them become individuals and not just a name on a sheet of paper and checking a box. All right, the third group is disengaged. This is 20%.
Yes.
Tell me about disengaged
This is a tough group. This group, not only are they not doing the things that they're supposed to be doing in terms of eating healthy and exercising, but they're also not really concerned about the consequences of their condition. The key thing here is that they really feel like that their condition and the outcomes associated with it are really out of their control. So therefore, they're not really connecting their own behavior to their condition. Just to give you an example, someone with diabetes who has diabetes in their family, their perspective might be, my mom's had diabetes, my grandmother's has diabetes, it's my rite of passage, and they may not really think that they can do anything about it to be healthier. So it's really important for this group, you know, you have to kind of connect the dots for them and help them see that there is a link between their behavior and their health outcomes. And
then B, you got to make them care about it and feel like they can actually do something.
Absolutely.
Okay, so those are the folks who you kind of got to tug at, and now the last group, and this is 31%.
The largest group.
Is just overwhelmed by the whole thing.
Absolutely. This is a really interesting group, and the reason I think it's interesting is because I think that most healthcare professionals would look at this group and think, they don't care, they're not motivated, they're beyond help. But they're not. The thing that's interesting about this group is that they're just not confident. They know that there are serious consequences associated with their conditions. They've tried and failed a lot, and they just don't have confidence. So the key with this group is to increase their confidence through things like goal setting, setting a clear action plan, and focusing on really specific goals and acknowledging their successes.
Kind of the baby steps group?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you have a background in nursing.
Yes.
Would things like this have been so helpful to you? Do you think that how do you think that the nurses and doctors will really be able to kind of put this into practice?
You know, it really, it's not complex. It is taking a little bit different approach. It's taking
and taking a little bit more time.
Yeah, well,
right? In other words, as a care provider, really kind of investing a little bit more in each patient and being willing to look at them in this way and sort of tailor their care. I
think it's about really looking at a patient and not making assumptions and really trying to get to their psychology. What's motivating them, what's standing in their way, because it's easy for us all to make assumptions. We do that every day. So I think it's actually very actionable, and it could lead to really more efficient interaction between patients and their healthcare providers.
Well, we sure hope so.
I hope so as well.
Thank you for coming in and talking with us.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the time, Paige.
All right.